inside the 18 live from my bunker in Palm Desert, California, also known as my dad's guest room. I'm Michael Magid. With me is the one and only, you know him as the guy that discovered the Danish catch, Omar Zini, Pro GK Academy. And joining us are two legitimate stars in professional soccer, former MLS stars, Andy Gruenebaum and Jon Busch. Andy, you're also known as the Hebrew Hammer, and I had to bring that up right there because that was something that Chad Prickett said. He's like, dude, if you don't bring up he's the Hebrew Hammer, we're never going to talk again.
It's one of those things that started at Kentucky when I was there, and just continued on through a random connection. Someone I went to school with at Kentucky was from Columbus, so when I went to Columbus, it kind of caught on. So happy to still be called the Hebrew Hammer.
Busch, have you ever been called the Hebrew Hammer?
That I have not. Many other things, but not the Hebrew Hammer. Many other things, but not the Hebrew Hammer.
You got the solid St. Patrick's look going on right now, dude. You got the green, the green and the white.
Yeah, I don't know what's going on. I'm a mess.
Well, hey, you're better off than Omar. Omar's just a silhouette. Omar's
just got a voice today. So I think it's great that we all have our hats on because we're afraid to show our hair because nobody's got out to get a haircut yet. So I think that's the point we're at here.
Dude, you gotta wonder what Omar actually looks like if he won't even go on camera,
Yeah, right?
Dude, the hair is just ridiculous.
I can see all you guys.
Yeah,
Wait,
I know.
It's like the voice from God coming out.
Yeah, seriously. He's going to scare the crap out of us at one point during this thing.
My hair is just an absolute disaster right now. Like right now, it's just I don't know about you guys, but like my hair, instead of growing down, it grows out. So I've just got wings right now, and that's why I've been wearing hats. And Buschy, this is the only other hat I had at my dad's house. Is this U.S. soccer? Look at the brim. Look at this thing.
Yeah. I'm just glad you changed it up because I can't keep doing Zoom calls with you with the same hat on. I mean, if you last much longer there, I'm going to start sending you different hats just so you have some.
Can you give me actually, I'll wear a Jon Busch goalkeeping hat. I got no issue with that.
Oh, those are limited edition, buddy. Oh. Limited edition. There's two. One for me and one for my wife.
Oh, man. Before we start off the show, just real quick, just want to give a shout out to everybody with the GoFundMe in regards to Omar's situation with his computer. Absolutely, really, really means a lot to everybody that you guys were willing to contribute and everything like that. And I think we basically hit our goal thanks to Stan Anderson at Camp Shutout. So congratulations. We made the $1,500. Omar's not going to have to go on the street begging for change anymore. He's still going to be able to provide valuable content to the entire goalkeeping community. Stan just texted, yes, I am the fourth viewer.
Thanks, Stan. I got that same text just now. So I appreciate that, Stan. Thanks for joining us today, bud.
Guys, let's just get into this. Today's topic is teaching older keepers how to mentor. I thought about this topic because Omar brought this up on the show. Which was the goalkeeper coach, Omar, that had mentioned having young goalkeepers be mentored by the older keepers of their academy?
Matt Brown, I think it was.
Okay. Oh, that's right. It was Matt Brown over at IMG who brought that up in regards to basically what he has at IMG is he has the older goalkeepers mentoring the younger keepers, helping them out with warm-ups, helping them out with their day-to-day activities. And I thought, oh my God, this is such a cool topic to talk about. And since I know that you guys had a relationship when Andy first came into the league, and then obviously when Andy became a veteran keeper himself, he also took some younger goalkeepers under their wing. I thought you guys would be great to talk about this topic. So first off, to both you guys here, like kind of what is a mentor in the goalkeeping union? Whoever wants to start out.
Go on, GBaum.
Okay.
You're smarter than me, so I want to hear your definition.
That's true. I'll give you that. No, I just think I'll just throw it out there from my perspective because when I came into the league, it was very much a situation where I just wanted to work hard and make the team year one. I knew we had Buschy like 10 goalkeepers into preseason that first year in 2006, and I'm like, where do I even fit in? I have no idea. Yeah. And I knew Buschy was at the top of that heap, and so I wanted to sort of latch on. I just remember thinking like, okay, I'm rooming with Johnny Walker, who was my roommate, Buschy, and that was hilarious.
By the way, that just sounds like you're an alcoholic. You realize the way you've said
exactly.
that, right?
Yeah.
That goes hand in hand with J-Dubs.
No, he's the man. It was absolutely fantastic rooming with him. Just a whole lot of laughs.
Yeah.
But on the field, I know he was dealing with a back injury, but on the field, I just remember I've always been a guy like blue collar, just work hard and try and earn whatever I can. And I think, really just watching Buschy train, everything I thought I was doing, he did with like a 20-pound vest on. So I was like, oh, wow. Okay. So I just remember, man, this is the new bar. Right. And so, I think just watching him train, but then getting to know Buschy really taught me what it was going to take to make the team that year, but also to be a good pro. So that's what I think. It's verbal, but it's also just visual, just leading the charge.
Yeah. Buschy, what's expected of a mentor like off the field? Like, because, GBaum's talking about, on the field in regards to your work ethic and saying, okay, you're showcasing to me what it really takes to be a pro and play at this level. But what about off the field in regards to when you take on somebody? What are your feelings there?
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is you want to be authentic, right? For me, and I've said this from day one of my career to the end, like I am who I am. Some people like it and some people don't. And I don't change that. Whether I'm talking with older goalkeepers or younger goalkeepers. Guys like Scott Garlick, guys like Mike McGinty, in my early days, Pat Onstent, those are guys that helped me, and so when I got to the point, in Columbus after a few years and then, then on, it was my turn to kind of give back. And it started with Andy and it, went to the guys in Chicago, then the guys in San Jose. And it's, as Andy said, it's verbal, but it's also, what you do without talking to them, and how you paint the picture for them. And for me, that always came easy, right? Because that was people that know me and been around me know that I work, and so that was the given. The verbal side of it is, it really depends what they're going through, how they're dealing with certain things. I use Scott Garlick as one of the examples. I remember one of the first times he really kind of gave me some advice. We were in a gym in Greensboro, North Carolina after training. And that's when he was going up and back from DC United. And I was annoyed for some reason. I don't know. I was a young kid at the time. And he put his arm around me and was like, what's going on? I was like, I want to get to the MLS as quick as I can. And, his biggest thing was, he says, it's not how quick you do it. It's how long you stay when you get there. And I never thought about it that way. Like I said, I think I was 19 at that time, and he was starting to go up and back to DC. So he got it. He already had his taste of it. So he knew it was coming for him. So ever since that day, it was kind of, that the light bulb went off. I remember leaving the gym and driving back to my little apartment and going, that makes sense. So that was kind of my first example of like, sometimes it's just little chats like that. It doesn't have to be any long conversations, or, and there's plenty of them in the goalkeeping world, right? Because we spend a lot of time together, especially early in training sessions, when we're just the goalkeepers down in our own, and Andy and I might be getting water and we might be chatting about a set position or a save or a positioning or something, and there's just little chats that happen all the time. One of the ones that I really enjoyed once I left Columbus was JT over in San Jose. JT started training with us when he was 15. Right. And I remember, like, he couldn't even drive yet. His mom had to drop him off. Didn't
Wando start driving him? Isn't that what
Wando maybe started picking him up after a certain point. But at first, one of the first days I remember walking in and seeing him get out of his car. So I went up to his mom and introduced myself and said, don't worry, we'll take care of your son, and the kid was 15 years old. but he was a fantastic goalie then, and he's even better now. But I enjoyed the conversations with him because, again, he's a 15-year-old kid who you could tell he had a future in the game, and he wanted to learn. So that for me, he spent a lot of time around us, and being in San Jose for a few years, like you could see him develop even at that young age. So it's a combination, right? It's a combination of setting the tone as an older guy and what you do in training, and showing that you're not cutting corners, and you're making sure you do the right things in training and set the example, because they are looking up to you. And it's also, like you said, it's how you handle yourself off the field. Do you get your gym work in? Do you recover when you need to recover? Do you and do you treat people properly? That was
Yeah.
one of the that was for me one of the bigger things too. Is like, this is just a game, and there's an outside world, and then B, we're just one little piece of the team, and so that respect that has to go around the team. There's going to be issues, right? There's going to be times where I'm yelling at them, they're yelling at us, but at the end of the day, like, we have to be in it together. And so that was another part that these youngsters needed to understand, because it's a balancing act, right? Sometimes, and Andy knows this as well as anybody, sometimes you need to kick them in the ass, and sometimes you need to pat them on the back.
Yeah.
And you know when to do what.
And sometimes you need to know when to turn Jon Busch off, which is impossible to do, actually.
Wow. I can go eat lunch.
No, dude, because I just got this message right now, and this is great. Darren McLeod just commented, and he goes, "John, there's no way you and Andy were chatting about the game when you guys grabbed water together between drills."
It's probably true, but plenty of subject matter. That's the bottom line is.
But that's that off the field. That's that off the field camaraderie,
too.
Right? It's not just about goalkeeping, and I think that's something that a lot of goalkeepers need to understand, or goalkeeper coaches even need to understand this. And Omar, I want to bring this back to you because you've been in the college environment, that sort of thing, and you've seen freshmen working with seniors and all that sort of stuff. And a lot of times, a lot of goalkeeper coaches get mad that guys are chit-chatting about stuff that has nothing to do with goalkeeping. And why is it important to kind of find that balance?
No, I think a lot of the guys, they see each other in the training room. They're doing rehab together. Some of them even have classes that they need to take together. So for me, it was just about letting them be themselves when, they came to stretching or they got water, just letting them be humans and just friends at like the core thing of all of it. And then once we stepped in those lines and once we started the session, then it was about being, business oriented and making sure that we had a specific approach to make each other better. I think that was the tough part too, because you could see sometimes where the freshman service, unfortunately, wasn't as good as the senior service. So the senior wasn't getting the service he needed from the freshman. And you could tell there was some animosity at times, because obviously when you're competing for a spot and you feel like someone may be sliding you in some way because their service is not right and they're trying to make you look bad. As a coach, I had to kind of step in and, pull both of them aside and say, look, I understand what is kind of happening at this very moment, but I need you guys to figure your crap out, figure that stuff out now. And for me, it was good to give them the platform to speak on what they felt the other goalkeeper was doing. They hashed it out, and boom, we figured it out from there. So I think that open communication from the coach to allow this kind of growth of a friendship to happen, I think that's important too.
Yeah, no, I think that's extremely valuable. And now I kind of want to talk about the fact that a lot of people who are listening to the show, they work with youth keepers. And we were talking about what Matt Brown was saying at IMG about the working with the younger keepers there, the older keepers. So I kind of want to ask you guys there, GBaum and Buschy, at what age do you think it's capable for someone to start taking on a mentoring role? Is this something that you have to wait until college or the pro game, or can a 14-year-old start taking a mentoring role?
I think that's a fair point. I have kids that are a little bit older, in high school that just want to be around, hey, can I stick around and help out in this session? And I think they're just, they're wired that way. So I absolutely let them kind of step in and either help serve or just make little points and just kind of learn how to be a mentor. And I think that's important. It can happen at as early as, as freshman year of high school, if you have a kid with the right mentality and that's been around you long enough. And then other kids, they're just wired during their sessions. They're just wired to be vocal. And those are the kids that I like the best,
Yeah, I'm one of those guys. I mean, Buschy and I, we had this conversation in regards to why Buschy used to chew so much gum during games, and he's like, "Well, first off, I talk a lot, so the voice gets sore." Buschy, anything you want to add to that?
Big Red, right, Buschy? Big Red.
To my gum chewing? No, you're absolutely yes. Big Red. Big Red was my gum of choice for my entire career.
No, what kind of roles do you give your older kids, at your program?
I agree with Andy in the fact of there's not necessarily an age. You can't say hey, at 15 they're going to be mentors, or 19 they're going to be mentors, right? Because there's so much that goes into it. And you might have a younger kid who, like you said, is outgoing, who understands, and he may talk to some of the kids that are, even younger than him, and, and vice versa. I try to do it here with the fire goalkeepers, especially on the DA side. We've got some very good older goalkeepers, and I try to not pair them up per se and say you need to work with him or that sort of thing, but hey, Omar, I'll kind of mention it. I'll kind of mention it to some of the older guys, especially when we have new younger kids coming into the club, right? Because I'll say to one of the older kids, like this gentleman, Holden, who plays for our 19s, hey, Holden, spend a little extra time with him, and just to try to make him feel part of our group and that sort of thing. And it's twofold, right? It's twofold. It helps the youngster feel more comfortable, but it also helps Holden, because here's a kid who's going to college, and so he'll be, right now he's at the top of the kind of pecking order for us, but all of a sudden he's going to be at the bottom of it when he goes to college next fall. And so he needs to understand the dynamics of both sides. And it takes some time, again, I think, Omar was talking about in the college game. I think every time you go, right, you go from club to college to pros, or that sort of thing, you start at the bottom, you work your way up, and then when you make that next jump, you go back to the bottom again. And you got to work your way back up a little bit. So it's, it's kind of interesting. And, I love it.
I was going to say, look at
this guy's unbelievable. So, but again, for me, and your buddy wrote in earlier, joking about it, there were times in my early days where I didn't really talk much in training at all. And it was, during goalkeeper training, right? I mean, if we're playing a game or scrimmage and that sort of thing, I was always communicating. But there were times in my early days where as soon as we walked on the field and we were into goalie training, I was so locked in that I may have a word here or there, but I just, and it wasn't, I didn't like the other goalkeepers or anything. It was just the way I worked, and then as I got older, and I started to realize I had established myself a little bit. And then, guys like Andy and Alex Kahn in Chicago and JT. And, I started realizing I can give a little bit back to these guys, and so it becomes, I don't know if it's a confidence thing, but it's almost like you become secure in who you are. Yeah. And yes, we're competing, but it's not a threat. I don't want that to sound wrong, but you just become secure in who you are and your ability. And you say, I want to help these guys because they're good guys.
Yeah. I think that's a really difficult thing a lot of times in regards to just emotional growth from a goalkeeper. I mean, you're talking about that, that development of a person. We talked about it with IMG, in regards to an adolescence is such a transitional phase, but just having that security within who you are, because it's such an insecure time. A lot of times people are just insecure. It's oh, well, if I'm helping him out, what are people are going to think about me? They're going to think I'm weak because, this guy's going to, I'm going to make him better or whatever, that sort of thing. And, Omar, one of the reasons that I think it's fascinating with Omar is because he deals on social media with these questions and conversations from these kids all the time. And they look to him as kind of a mentor, a virtual mentor. if you will. But I think you need that tangible. You need somebody in your life that's actually present to helping you out. And if it's a goalkeeper in your program, it's going to be even that much more beneficial. So like Omar, like what are some like activities that you've tried introducing in sessions or programs, that have helped kids kind of work together and develop that sort of understanding that I'm here to help you and for you to grow, and I want you to learn from me, whether you're older than me or younger than me, because I've had mentors that have been younger than me.
Yeah, no, I mean, from just playing, I think I was really fortunate. Once I went to the Galaxy Academy, I was 15, and we had two older guys who like one guy was like 6'6", 6'7", so like he was a presence, and had another guy who was very outspoken, very just like wanted to help people because he loved talking. So to me, I had two really good mentors there, and I was kind of like taken back by it because I never really had someone to look up to, and I think an ego thing was kind of like I don't want any help, let me do my own thing. And then once they started showing me the right way to, like, the demeanor, personality, and at that point I was trying to get recruited into college, and those guys had already signed Division I, not contracts, but Division I scholarship deals. So I was like, okay, you guys obviously know what you're doing. Let me see if I can learn from you. So they took me underneath their wing. My goalkeeper coach at the time was like, look, I want these guys to teach you. I'm going to give you little coaching points, but I need them to learn as well by critiquing and seeing what technical like deficiencies you may have. So at that point, you're learning, they're learning, and I'm just kind of like observing and trying to make sure I delegate, certain responsibilities. So from a young age, I had that kind of those mentors that allowed me to grow into myself. And like Jon said, kind of like find your voice. There are times where I didn't like to talk once I stepped on the field because I knew it was business, but off the field, I love talking. So I really developed my friendships off the field. And once we came into the goal, then I was like way more of like just listen, take everything in. And then once I got to college, now you're obviously the bottom of the pecking order. I had a senior goalkeeper. He and I were competing. I took his spot, and for some stupid reason, my head coach kept rooming us together. So it was the most awkward thing. It was literally, I would read the rooming sheets, and I'm like, "Are you serious?"
Well, it's because you guys
So
were both goalkeepers. That's right. Right?
I know, but there was no pulse from the coach. That's why, like, I learned. You learn a lot of things from your coaching staff, and like what they didn't see. So now, when I have my sessions as a coach now, I will. You're not usually older, but sometimes you might have goalkeepers who are like 1 or 2 year difference. One will be a junior in college, one will be a freshman. And I just have them like, look, guys, I want you guys to help each other out. So if one person makes a mistake or something happens, just talk to them. See if maybe you've gone through that same issue, and then now how you can help them. And vice versa too. If you feel like you need some help, ask the other person for some advice. So I think just creating that conversation and that piece of it's a safe place. Don't feel like you're going to be critiqued, but also that you're trying to help each other. And I think that's been a good positive thing.
I want to talk to
Michael. I think it's important because I think what we're talking about here, there's a respect factor when you're younger. When I came into the league and I was looking up to Buschy, I think year one was just kind of like make the team, do whatever it takes. I played the last 2 games of the season. I think Ziggy came up to me and was just like, let's see if you can play. And I think Buschy prepared me for that as well as, some of the other guys. But the next year, once I had my feet wet a little bit, the next year I remember Buschy. I don't know if you recall this is the same as I do, but because your memory is, so fantastic now. But I remember there was still that respect factor. I really, I wanted to work just as hard as you, if not outwork you. But it was more of okay, can I get more of a taste? Yeah. And I think that's important. Here. There can be that respect, but also if you're going to make it, you have to be okay with jumping. You have to be okay with taking that leap. And I think Steve Clark. I interviewed Steve Clark of Portland, and I mean that guy has just this ruthless mentality, which I kind of respect. I really do. I think he just wants it, man. And so there's got to be that mutual thing where you're just not afraid. And Buschy, that preseason, man, I think that might have been the greatest preseason stretch of not only training but games. I think any 2 goalkeepers that put on. I just remember we didn't get beat much that preseason. No. I don't know if it was great.
Yeah, no, and I think you're right. I think there's, at the end of the day, only one goalkeeper can play, and so once you get the taste, like you did that end of that first year, I think that was maybe the first year I did my knee, if I remember correctly. So now you got a taste. So yeah, you know, and I think the key to that is, I knew that he wanted more, right? I didn't need him to say that. We're all in those situations as goalkeepers, right? And it doesn't matter if you're the senior guy, the younger guy, whatever. We all want to be the guy. It's how you go about your business is the key, you know, and for me, I mean, look, I knew that. And I think, you know, thinking back to those times, I mean, like I said, I had come off my knee. You know, Johnny was dealing with his back. I can't remember if Will was in by that time or not. We had Bill Gaudette as well. We had like 6 goalies in camp. Like it was crazy. It looked like, you know, a goalie camp. You know, it was that nuts. But
Columbus presents Camp Shutout.
Yeah, pretty much. But I mean, we all knew, like, everybody wanted it, depending on who was healthy. And 1 or 2 of us might not be there, you know, towards the end of it. But at no time, you know, J-Dubs was awesome. Will was great. Bill Gaudette was, you know, everybody got on, you know. So there was never any issues. I mean, I'll be honest, in my, you know, 21, 22, I've only had 2 guys who I was like, man, these guys are hard to get on with, you know.
I've only had 1.
You know,
and that person was in preseason with us, actually.
Okay, then. All right. You didn't. Look, so you basically eventually I got traded. Okay, like good lord.
Now you got.
GBaum, you realized you just made it 1 in 6 people right now.
Yeah. It narrowed it down already.
It's not very anonymous right now. By the way, shout out to everybody who's found. Shout out to everybody who is watching, though. Shout out to everybody who's found the YouTube link. Subscribe on YouTube in case this ever happens again. Find the YouTube page, and it'll make a lot easier because it'll just come up in your notifications. It says, like, Inside the 18 is live on YouTube, and you go, oh, that's where they are right now. So that'll happen. Speaking of mistakes, go ahead, Omar.
No, I think when it comes to, like, the mentorship, I think, as well as, like, just the goalkeeping culture within a club, if, like, one person, like, I'm not sure, Andy, who you're talking about, but if one person's toxic, then it really can kind of not sink the whole ship, but all you need is one person to say something, a backhanded compliment or something that, like, or just something that's very ill-willed or something negative that will bring somebody else down. So I know I had in college, there were times where we had another goalkeeper, he and I were competing, and there were times where he always felt that he was better than me, and he would make comments in training sessions, like counting how many small-sided games he was winning and, you know, putting up his stats in real time. And it was just one of those things that was just, like, so uncomfortable because I'm like, yes, I know we can compete and I get it. But when you start making certain comments that kind of, like, bring the mood of everybody and, like, the negativity is tangible, then it gets weird and it gets really hard to not even have a mentorship, but to, like, I'm not trying to help somebody who's being negative towards me in sessions. Does that make sense? Like, I'm not trying to, like, of course I want to help you be better, but there's no reason you're giving me absolutely no reason and enjoyment to try and help you, because I know that I'm going to look like a fool if I'm trying to help somebody who doesn't want to be helped by me. So that's, I think it's important too, from the top down. And I think from the coach's perspective too, when you have those personalities, I mean, in college, you don't get paid that much too, right? Like, college coaches don't get paid that much, goalkeeper coaches. So sometimes it may be difficult to take on certain tasks that may be not above your pay grade, but is it really worth it to have those tough conversations with those kids who have 1 year with you and they're going to be gone? So I think it's, like, important to have those conversations as not even a mentor, but as a coach. So, like, I need you guys to get along. I don't care what happens off the field, but in these lines, you guys have to respect each other's, like, will to try and be number one. And if you start having, you know, a bad service or service that's not going to benefit us, then that's it. Like, you know what I mean? As a coach, you have to step in at some point and really put a stamp on it.
I think that's one of the issues, though, a lot of times, is that a lot of times coaches, and I've been guilty of this as a goalkeeper coach, developing goalkeeper coach myself too, where I've tried to, I don't know how to say unorganically. Is that a word? Is that a thing? Unorganically, integrate goalkeepers and make them, hey, take so-and-so, you guys will be friends and you'll help out so-and-so. And they're like, dude, I don't like that guy. We just don't get on. Like, and then just the chemistry is just not there. And I think that's a huge mistake, because now it's not going to work. So like GBaum, do you have, like, any advice? Like, have you ever been in that situation before where, like, coach has been like, hey, you know, you and so-and-so, you guys should make this happen. And you're like, oh man, you know, this is probably not the best decision.
I mean, Buschy will tell you, and you guys know just a little, I love to talk. I love the conversation, even in training for me. Anybody that's worked with me, I just love people, right? So I don't really care about anything else. When it's my turn to go, or I'm going to be respectful of your reps. But during my reps, I'm going to work just as hard, or if not harder. But when we're getting that drink, I just want to be light. So I'll pretty much take on that task. The biggest thing I see is with some of the goalkeepers I work with at the youth level, some of their personalities just are not. They're just not the most personable people. They're inverted or introverted, whatever it is. They're not raw guys. That's okay, but their actions still have to be positive towards others, and sometimes they're not. And sometimes I'm like, look, your vibe, you can tell you're giving off a vibe that is negative to our environment. You're not the only one here. It's some of these kids are not going to be able to serve a ball like you. They're not at your level. That's okay. You still need to be respectful. And that's my job to get you the service that you need. And I'll find a way to do that. So that's kind of what I've seen. Like I said, I'm just the exact opposite of a lot of goalkeepers. I keep everything as light as possible. And I'm just that's just how I'm wired.
I love what you're saying, GBaum, in regards to the service, because I think service is one of the biggest ways that older keepers can help in the mentoring aspect, if you want to call it, or a leadership aspect in a session. Because a lot of times the older kids, they're just trying to kill the ball. And look, I mean, we're all competitive and we all want to have fun and we all want to score and stuff like that. But sometimes I have to set them aside and be like, hey, man, just imagine if you were in the goal right now, like place it somewhere where they're going to be successful. Like guarantee you in the long run, it's going to be better for you. They're going to give you better service too, because they're going to remember that you were the dude that gave them that ball. And they're going to be like, oh man, I really want to show that I can give them a good ball too. Buschy, do you agree?
Yeah, no, I think, again, they have to figure. Well, first, I agree with what GBaum was saying, and then second, I think they need to understand that there's a purpose for them in every drill, and there's always something you can get out of it. Even if we got an older kid working with a younger kid, there's something you can get out of it, and sometimes you need to explain that to them, especially at the youth level, because oh my gosh, I got to train with these kids, or that kind of thing. There's always a positive you can get out if you're willing to spin it that way. You can always spin it the negative way too.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of being a goalkeeper coach too, though, is if they don't see it, opening their eyes a little bit to them and saying, hey, what can we get out of this? What can you get out of this? So I think that's first and foremost. Unlike Andy, I don't have a lot of fun. I'm a little bit more strict, I think, so I think Andy and I balance each other off really well, because as I've retired and gotten older, I try to have more fun. But
your sessions look like fun, Buschy. Come on,
they're fun. They're intense. I mean, every time I see Andy's video, he's trying to meg somebody, but I don't. But I mean, it's great. It's funny.
A lot of joy.
Yeah, see, like we balance each other off really well when we talk about these kind of things. But there's no right or wrong. It's just different personalities. But I think that, again, going back, I think that that's part of being a goalkeeper coach is showing these kids, if they don't see it, what their role entails, and helping develop and helping, become mentors, even if it's just to the younger goalkeepers. Because, I mean, how many times have you seen, like, the older guys go up there and just whack a ball, right? And the young kids like, holy crap! Like,
they're putting on a 12, and that happens at club, because the thing is sometimes like a 12 can't make it to the younger session, so the parents like, hey, can they come to the 17s? And like, what do you say? Like, no, like, so
and there's
sometimes
times,
I say no.
Depending on who they are, right? But there's I mean, there's
if they're of the level, I mean, you don't want to put them in a bad situation.
There's times where when I'm training, the goalkeepers, and if I have that, that little discrepancy, I will walk by, my senior goalkeeper and be like, hey, take a little off of it, just so they know, or we'll make eye contact and they'll give me a nod. Like, they understand, and it's taken a while for them to, get that, but again, I've got, and I think, Matt, you and I talked about this before, I've got a little 12-year-old who plays for our DA, who he's unbelievable. Like, technique-wise, he's unbelievable. I can train him with the high school kids. Now, again, physically, he's still not quite there yet. So he's one of the kids that I'll put into our older groups. But when we get a little bit more live, I'll say to the younger or the older guys, hey, take a little off for him, make him work, but take a little, and so I think that's how these older guys can can figure out how to be mentors to the younger kids.
Yeah. Omar, I want to ask you this in regards to the high school aspect. Now a lot of these kids are going back to play high school, which I think is great. I mean, and that's another conversation, whether you agree with me or disagree with me, whether you think the level's bad. It's not the point. The point is I enjoyed my high school experience, and I'm glad that these DA kids are going to get that experience once more. Is it easier to mentor in a setting like that, like a college setting or a high school setting, than in a club setting where I'll be honest with you, and this is a mistake I've made in the past, is that my younger sessions, my middle sessions, and older sessions have all been islands where there hasn't been a lot of connection. And it's something that I learned, kind of in the middle of my career that was making things not as cohesive as they could have been. Because when a kid did move up, they didn't know these kids at all. So how do you feel about that?
No, I think obviously in a high school setting or a college setting, you get to see these kids, or you get to see each other and work within a group every single day. So you get to know each other, you get to know the personalities, what makes people tick and all that. But in the club setting, you get to see them, but it's not like you're not taking any classes with them. You're not seeing them around campus. You're not going to someone's house afterwards. Like, it's not as fluid as you would see it in high school and college. But I think no matter what age group you are, I think from a coach's perspective and a player's perspective, the EQ, obviously we have IQ on the field and like knowing the game and all that, but like EQ and like emotional intelligence and like understanding what certain emotions trigger certain people and how you can go best about, bottling a certain message to those kids is huge. So I know I've had guys who have tried to be mentors to me and in college, and there was a guy who was just like always way too serious. And I love to joke around, but like he just was way too serious. And like we didn't vibe very well. And he didn't change for me. I tried to change for him, but I would never meet his expectancy. I never really met his like what he wanted from me. So there was always that little like tug of war there. But then you have coaches now where I'm like, I know certain things upset certain people. Like this past year, I had a Hispanic kid, and I tried to change his style completely. Like I really was trying to change him and say, hey, look, I want you to be more Americanized, more European, clean handling. Don't dive backwards. Don't do so many kick saves. And I told him, like I told you,
were you on that? You weren't on that the PowerPoint that we had on with Dougie on Friday. It sounds like you were on the conversation.
It wasn't on that one.
Oh God! Well, we filming on that one, but no. Essentially, I tried to change him, and I tried to make him somebody that I thought like was what I wanted to see, so that he can. I guess my idea was that if you look better from the coach's perspective, you're going to play more because we want to see more of an American style. And probably like 2 or 3 weeks later, he and I got into it, like not a verbal argument, but like it was pretty intense. And he was just saying like, this is not me. You're trying to change me. This is not who I am. This is not the kind of the goalkeeper I want to be. I play like I'm half of my potential. You're changing me too much. And if I had like the emotional intelligence and understanding of like how to best approach him and maybe have a conversation prior and say, hey, like Jon said, there's always a positive. Hey, let's try this technique. And maybe we can see something a little bit better. Maybe you don't give up so many rebounds. Maybe you hold balls more than push them away for corners or throw-ins. And obviously in high school and college, long throw-ins are a focal point. But can we try and keep it a little bit more on the field and in your hands? Had I gone that approach versus like, hey, I'm going to change you, no questions asked, we're going to do this, and done it the other way, I probably would have gotten a different result from it. So again, it's important for coaches as well to understand the emotions and the things that trigger their goalkeepers so that they best can assist them with obviously development.
GBaum, I got a question for you. Do you ever have your olders like help out as like assistants or anything like that with the little guys with your sessions? Since you're Mr. Fun Guy, I've just figured I'd ask you. So.
No, every now and again when it fits, right? I mean, these kids show up. I run essentially 3 sessions a night, and they're age group and level dependent, obviously. But I think that every now and again I'll have a kid that is waiting on a ride, and I think that kid has, a good head on their shoulders. And hey, do you want to stick around while you're waiting? Just help me get these kids going. You know what the warm up looks like. Other than that, they probably need to be on their way doing homework, and you know how that goes.
Yeah.
So I'm definitely not shy about it when it comes to camps and all that as well. You know, there's kids that will ask me all the time, can I stick around? And if it works, if I think that it's not going to be a hindrance to the session, absolutely. And if I think it'll benefit everybody, then for sure. But my first priority is making sure that the environment is what it needs to be that day for each session. So I'm not just going to be the nice guy and say, absolutely, like go force something in there. But if it works out, definitely.
You know, it's funny that you said that in regards to the, you know, the warm-ups and all that sort of stuff, because that's what they talked about at IMG, is that they have on the weekends, they would have the older goalkeepers warm up the younger keepers. Do you guys think, Buschy, do you think that's a good idea at a club to develop a union, a GK union?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's just one example of what they could do, you know, and they think that's a good idea, you know, and it works for them. So, you know, and sometimes too, you know, depending on the situation, you know, the goalkeeper coach might be busy at another game with another team warming somebody, you know, so he may not be able to get over there, you know, so there are times where you do need to rely on the older goalkeepers to, maybe it's just the first part of it, right, of just getting them loose. So by the time I do get over to that field, you know, I do that quite a bit during trainings during the week in the DA schedule, because the way we're set up is, you know, I get the younger kids first. So I've got, you know, depending on what the coaches want, roughly 45 minutes of goalkeeper work. And then I send them to their teams. And now I'm walking around and coaching them within their, you know, team environment. By that time, the older guys start showing up, you know, and I will tell them, look, when I'm done at, you know, at whatever time it is, 7:00, when I walk back over, you guys need to be warmed up. So the responsibility is on you, you know, and I'll pick one of them specifically each week. You know, when I see them walk by, I'm like, hey, you're in charge. I want everybody warmed up by the time I get back over there so we can start into the session. You know, so you do need, you know, it's good for them and it's also good for you, because, you know, if not, you're spending the first 5 or 10 minutes of your limited time warming these kids up.
Yeah.
So.
I also think it's important in regards to the fact is that, like, I'm the type of person, and I think all three of us, you know, here would agree with that, or 4 of us. I don't know how to count. 4 of us agree that you want to make an independent goalkeeper. You don't want to make it a dependent goalkeeper. Therefore, you want to know that the goalkeepers that you're training it's resonating and they understand. So if they have to go run a session, if they have to go warm up kids, they know what to do because they know goalkeeping, you know? Yeah. And that's my concern when I see it's like waiting for the goalkeeper. When I see these at the club fields all the time, man, kids just sitting around. I don't know where the goalkeeper coach is, deer in the headlights. Like they have no idea what to do.
Yeah.
It's like, well, that's not a goalkeeper in my mind. You know?
They need to take accountability. They need to, you know, if I need to warm up and my coach isn't there, I got to start warming up.
Yeah.
You know, or, you know, get myself. And so that's part of them figuring out their routines, if you want to call it that.
Yeah.
It's a mentality. It's a mentality. Some kids have it. It can be learned, but it's got to be introduced into your environment as a coach. It's your responsibility to make sure your environment is what you want it to be. And so early on, when I started, you know, coaching my own academy and having different age groups, the expectation is, especially for the older kids, that, like Buschy said, these kids are out there. They know where my cones are. They know where the balls are. All right, the balls are already pumped up. Everything's ready to go well before they arrive. So they know what I'm looking for them to do right away. So if I come over when I'm finishing up my other session, it's a mentality in that leadership. So it's got to be taught at first, maybe to some.
And they got to know where the streamers are and the fireworks and everything for your session too, right? Right.
Exactly.
It's expensive. It's expensive.
How to play hopscotch and dodgeball.
Omar.
No, I think obviously when Kobe Bryant passed away, one thing that was apparent was that he really took a lot of these young players under his wing. When, you know, obviously we knew he was like a killer when he was playing. He didn't have many friends. A lot of the guys like Michael Jordan, they didn't like each other. They all kind of hated each other because of his will to win was so like it was just a strong personality that really turned off a lot of people. But as he got older and older and older, he realized, okay, my journey as a player is coming to an end. How can I kind of shift my perspective now and have my legacy continue on? And I think that is, I don't speak for you guys, but I'm sure, like you said, Jon, like, both of you guys, once you get to the later stages of your career, it's more about longevity of how can my legacy continue to live on. So you shift your perspective of, yes, of course I want to be the number one, but now how can I help these younger kids who are hungry just like I was when I was younger? How can I help them reach their max potential like someone helped me? So do you guys feel like as you guys kind of got into the later stages of your careers, you kind of shifted your perspective of, okay, my job as a goalkeeper and really my personality has grown to a certain point now that I can really help the younger goalkeepers develop?
I mean, Buschy, just from my perspective, it might be, I just feel like when I was competing at the professional level, there was a lot of guys that, I worked with some younger goalkeepers in that capacity, but I worked side by side with William Hesmer, who was mainly the starting goalkeeper for a lot of that time until he got hurt. And he had some unreal seasons. And I just knew that unless he did get hurt, man, I might not be getting a look, but that didn't mean, we weren't working side by side every day and having that relationship. For me, I think it helps a little bit. I know I'm going off on a little bit of tangent, but like, I don't think the age matters, being older or younger. I think we touched on this a little bit before, but also I think that, when I was playing as a professional, I was coaching the entire stint. So at first it was to make money because you know how it was back then, the developmental contract, you could apply for food stamps essentially on those things. But so yes, it was to make a little bit of extra money on the side, but also I really enjoyed it. And I think that gave me that perspective of just lending a hand throughout my career. I was always coaching kids while I played. And it just kind of automatically took that into my mentality when I worked with somebody that was starting ahead of me, like William. We weren't afraid to spitball ideas or, hey, why do you do this or why do you do that? But also when I was the guy and working with younger guys like Matt Ramsden, we talked about this a little bit, Michael, but I was the goalkeeper coach for the crew while I was hurt one year and Lampson was playing games. I would travel, warm him up, go over video. I was the guy. So I just think it was natural for me.
That happened to me with the USL team, and back basically they said to me, we'd love to have you stick around. I was like, oh man, well I'm really looking forward to playing. They're like, yeah, that's nice. I tell you what, why don't you really train these keepers? Because I don't know if you guys know at the lower levels of USL, you guys know this. There's no money, so they're like, hey, this guy's willing to stick around. Why don't we have him be the goalkeeper coach? That's how that worked out. All right. I want to talk about this. I want to talk camp setting because I think camp setting is a really good way for older kids to start developing a leadership mindset and how to start mentoring. How important do you guys think working at a summer camp as a younger goalkeeper, older goalkeeper, but younger goalkeeper, and you know what I mean, is to your development as a leader? And this
Buschy, you want to go?
This is not just a plug for Camp Shutout, okay? I just want to.
No. I'm. It's interesting. It's an interesting conversation because I think things have changed in the world of camps, right? If we're being honest, I mean, I worked for Matchniks for I don't know how many years. I mean, I know I was the youngest staff member ever for Doc. He literally would. I think I was 15 when he first, or 16 when he first hired me. I mean, I was so young I couldn't actually even have a group because I was too young. But he would literally bring me from camp to camp, and I would do every demo all summer long, and I loved it.
Extra sessions for you.
Yeah, basically. I mean, I stayed fit. But it taught me so much. And it taught me how to be a leader, and it taught me, there were. Most of the staff were college and pro, minor league pros at the time. So I got to be around those people and watch and observe and some unbelievable, goalkeepers, John Hollowell, AJ, like the guys I look back on that, a lot of them played indoor and then outdoor combo kind of deal. But just fantastic goalkeepers, but just watching them, become leaders of the camps. And so I think it's, I think it's definitely a bonus. the reason why, oh, there's Andy's wife.
Yeah.
There's
Hello.
the missus.
GBaum, do you
There's
have,
the missus. Just
GBaum, do you have to bounce,
Hello.
GBaum?
Yeah. He's got to go cook her lunch. Sorry, G-Ball, sorry. But
That's all right, man.
I think in today's world, like, there's not as many camps, is there? Because the kids play so much now. The seasons are so long. So I think that's an interesting question. I think it's I think it's great for these these college kids to be in those environments and help coach and because it makes them think about the position. It makes them think about, not just the leadership stuff like we're talking about, but also, what's the right, technique in diving? What does it look like? Taking a high ball. How do you, and then how do you get your thoughts and ideas from your mind out of your mouth to these younger goalkeepers for them to understand? So I think there's many facets of it for sure.
Yeah. Omar, you had that experience last summer, and again, I'm not trying to be a stand, but like one of the things that I thought was magical about Camp Shutout was all the staff assistants. And first off, helping, I learned from them and myself as just a staff member, when they're helping me out at the sessions and stuff, they might see something a little bit differently than me. And I'm like, you know what? I never thought about it like that. So I think we're all still growing from that standpoint too, but just seeing how they work with the kids, and a lot of them had been campers themselves.
Yeah, no, I think the best part about that was I told Stan he and I were talking about it, and I was saying that like it would be kids would go to sleep and it'd be like 1 in the morning, and all the coaches would be down just kind of sitting around, and everyone would have like a notebook, and we'd just be either playing games or drawing up sessions. And I thought it was just so cool that younger goalkeepers who are still either in college or just graduating from college, I was drawing up sessions with them. And to me, it was just so fun because they were asking like, hey, what do you think about this? How can I make this more game realistic? Like, I have this level goalkeeper tomorrow. What do you think? And to me, it was like, it sparked my interest, and it also allowed me to give them my perspective, and then their perspective came to me. So you're just getting different opinions. And I think that was the best part. And then we had 2 or 3 sessions a day. So I remember one morning I had such a bad morning session. I felt so just like defeated. I was like, wow, am I really the coach that I say that I am? And like, that I promote myself? And then I talked to Mike, I talked to a few people, and they were like, look, just get back to the basics. Like, don't overcoach, do this, do this. The next session, which was like 3 hours later, I felt like I redeemed myself. So it was just crazy how fast you can expedite your growth as a coach when you get the proper feedback from people who are like-minded, but also when you can get that feedback and then go apply it within 2 or 3 hours. And that was the camp setting for me as a coach. And I know as a goalkeeper, when I used to do camps, like I would learn something from the morning session, and then in the afternoon session, it would just be regurgitated to me by the coach, and I'd be like, oh yeah, snap, I got it. And then other coaches or other goalkeepers would say, hey, I remember when coach said this, and then I would right away remember it. And within a day, I'm already mastering something or trying to master something that I started the day that had no idea what it was. So I think they're important. And like John said, it's tough because everyone's playing all the time, but I think they definitely have a purpose. And Camp Shutout, to me at least as a coach, was, second to none. It was awesome.
GBaum, anything you want to add regarding camps? I think one of the problems too is college camps now is taking away that experience.
I think camps are more of an ID situation. If you look at it, there's your Camp Shutouts and the massive camps like that are geared towards youth. But once you hit a certain age, you're really just, can I play at the next level? How do I get identified? That kind of deal. I don't run a ton of camps unless it's something to differentiate from my everyday training, because I run year round, right? So I'll do, unless it's different from what they're getting, I'm not going to put a camp label on it and ask for more money. I just don't believe in that. But if like a Tim Melia here locally comes and says, hey, let's run a camp together, that's different, right? We can get more, we can get, we can label that and do some different stuff. So, but I think that's important. What you guys are talking about, having, guys that are in college or just older high school kids that are working these camps, Buschy, like you did when you were coming up, you start to learn the why, and not just what you're doing, but why. I think that's the biggest thing for me, and that helped me out through, as even a professional coaching. I'm just getting back to basics. I'm just literally teaching a set position, and in training, that's translating. I'm thinking about these things. Otherwise, I may not be that in tune with it, but I think it's the biggest thing is the why. And I think once you understand that, you start thinking about the game a little bit differently.
Yeah, I mean, I'll be honest with you. Like, I had some of the kids there, and by kids, I mean, staff assistants, open my eyes to certain different ways of looking at the game that I hadn't thought about before. And, Peter Mellor brought this up last week on the podcast, who's, obviously a legend and has been doing this for, more years than all of us combined. And he basically said, he's like, I'm still learning. I'm still learning. Yeah. So if he's still learning, then all of us, we can learn from youngers, we can learn from olders, and I think that's really what develops a real mentor relationship between. And I think Buschy brought it up best. It doesn't have to be about what your age is. It's about, your mindset, and are you willing to learn, and are you willing to teach?
Yeah. It was the same.
Camp Shutout is sorry, Buschy. Camp Shutout is that West Coast sponsored?
No, absolutely not. Oh. No chance. No chance.
I had to. Sorry, man. I had to.
That's okay. That's all right. You had your chance. You turned it. You didn't want to come to the family side.
I don't know. Is it? There's a lot of performance that's very high at Camp Shutout. Is that what's going on, Buschy?
Exactly.
A lot of.
So I remember, it's the same as a player, as you are as a coach, right? And Anthony Amy, who used to play for Fulham back in the day, I remember him saying, he had a quote, and I remember reading it and going, man, this guy's so right. And it was, again, towards the end of his career. He said, the day you stop learning is the day you should retire, right? And so I took that on as I got older as a player, but I also take it on, as a coach to say, okay, yeah, I've had a decent playing career and now I'm getting into the coaching world, but it's like, there's so much to learn. And if you think you've learned it all, no matter how long you've ever coached, or played, then that's the day you need to retire. If you're closed-minded and not willing to, to sit and listen and, to get on a Zoom call or get on a podcast or, have an open mind to call, to call Andy and him and I, throw ideas. It doesn't have to be tactical or about the on the field stuff. For him and I, we talk, sometimes we talk just business stuff as well, running our businesses and, hey, how'd you do this? Or what'd you do there? What do you think about this? And it's just, that's life in general, right? As well. If you're closed-minded on certain things, you're not going to grow. You're not going to advance,
And for the young, go ahead, Omar.
No, I had a conversation with Thomas Schleck he's in Dortmund, and it was like 3-4 weeks ago, and he said, if I sat through a webinar or read a book and I got one quote in 2 hours or however long it takes to read a book these days, I don't know, I do audiobooks, but he says
almost never read a book before.
He says, if I could get one quote or something that's going to make me better, then it's worth my time. And I think that when he said that, I was like, damn, it's so true. Anything you do nowadays, you listen to a podcast, a webinar. I know I was listening to so many webinars in the first 4 or 5 weeks of this whole quarantine. And it was definitely it was eye opening. But after that 5th week, I was like, look, I'm drained. My mind can't take anymore. I'm so over it. But then you go back to the notes and now you're looking at your notes and you go, whoa, okay. John said this, Andy said this. Well, okay. How can I combine that? What do I like? What do I not like? And I think once you can get all that information in, it's good, but then you have to have time to reflect. And I think, like you guys have been saying, it doesn't matter how old you are, you can still go through that process.
I want to say also that for any younger goalkeepers out there, that are looking for a mentor, looking for somebody to reach out to, don't be afraid to, because I think sometimes there's a lot of fear of, I'm not good enough. Why are they going to want to take their time with me? That sort of thing. I'll be straight up honest. Like when I got Buschy's cell phone number, when I was a younger goalkeeper coach, first thing I did was call him. And we talked for like an hour and a half. And honestly, that meant a lot to me. It meant a lot to me. Because I learned so much from that call, and sometimes you don't recognize as an older goalkeeper coach, what the message or how profound an impact you're making on a younger goalkeeper coach. Omar's even said to me sometimes some things that I've said to him, and he's like, I really took that. I'm like, I don't even remember saying that, but okay, cool. That's awesome. But I mean, and that's the power,
And I think the other thing, go ahead, Omar. Go ahead, bud.
Real quick, I'll make it quick. I was talking to Chris Sharp, who's at the Rapids, and I did a series with him. I sat down with him and I visited him when he was here in LA, and I went to Newport Beach, I filmed a session with him, then I filmed an interview with him. And he spent like, I kid you not, probably like 3 hours just in a hotel room. We finished the interview and he and I just talked about goalkeeping. My brother was like, look, I need to go, but like finish this up. So it was that long where we needed to get back, and my brother, whatever. But I was like, it was such a long conversation. And then I remember he and I text and we call each other now. And I called him a few days ago and I said, honestly, dude, I just want to say thank you because you have given me so much in such a short period and you've been so open to give me stuff. And he was like, look, man, like as you get to the higher levels, you'll start noticing that more people are more open because we're more secure. Like we know what we know, but like we want to help other people. But then when you stay with the younger goalkeeper coaches, there are some that don't want to share their secrets, don't want to share what they know. And I don't know if it's insecurity, ego. And I definitely was like that at one point too. So I think it's a little bit of both. But as you gotten older, and John, I remember we had a podcast with you and at Camp Shutout. And I remember like afterwards, I said, Jesus, man, like there's so much information that I didn't, like, Hall of Fame MLS guy, I never thought I would be sitting next to you. You know what I mean? And then when we sat next to each other and you said what you said, I was like, sheesh. I never thought this was going to happen. But the fact that it happened was like, it changed my perspective about like what from the top down, what we need to be doing to help each other.
Yeah, I think I agree with, I think you said Sharpie said it, like, you know, the higher levels you go, the more of these guys are secure enough in what they do and who they are, and they are willing to share, you know, you know, I think that's my point earlier was going to be the other part of that too is it doesn't only have to be one mentor, right? You can get things from different people, you know, or they can kind of come and go and you know, in certain years it might be one person and as you get older it might be somebody else. You know, there's no right or wrong. You're going to get bits and pieces from everybody. You know, and I think that's the, you know, the thing of it too is like, you know, especially as in the pros, you know, like early days, you know, Andy and I, you know, were around, but once I left now he's, you know, he's kind of gone on to, you know, to Hesmer. At the same time, I mean, there were conversations, whether it was on the phone or when we played against each other, we would sit and chat, you know, and you know, we may not have talked for a while, but all of a sudden we come back to, you know, and so, and now, you know, both of us retired and we do come back and have these chats about our businesses. And so I think that's another thing is the, you know, all young goalkeepers need to understand it's not just one, well, coach said he's got to be my mentor. So that's my mentor, you know. You know, again, I mean, you guys know Eric Vaughter, you know, Eric Vaughter's been, you know, started as my goalkeeper coach. Now he's basically been my second dad for 20 some years now, you know, and you know, he has been one of my mentors, you know, as I've grown up and, you know, but he started as just a goalkeeper coach. And now, like I said, sometimes we talk soccer, sometimes we talk life, sometimes we talk gloves and business and things like that, you know, but he's just one of a few that I beat ideas off of, you know, and so I think that's important to understand that, you know, use as many people as you can around you.
I want to use GBaum as a mentor to understand how to make my sessions as fun as possible. That's dude, we need to do that. We need to do like how do you keep your sessions fun? No, in all honesty, actually, Andy, I actually learned from you. I mean, I know this sounds a little stupid, but you know, somebody like yourself, you know, who you know, I'm half Jewish and. You know, like whenever somebody, you know, from that faith, you know, has a level of success in a certain field or whatever, like, you know, sometimes you kind of gravitate towards that person because you kind of see yourself in them. And so, you know, I used to watch you play as well too and say, hey, you know what? Look, there's another Jewish goalkeeper that can make
it. The two of us combined makes a full, right? So
yeah, exactly. And you got to be a half Jew. Yeah, you got to be half Jewish. You got to be half. Yeah. So yeah. All right, guys. Well, we've been going.
Real quick, Mike.
Yeah.
No, so we have a coach here, famous coach in California named Sharif, and he one time told me, he said, Omar, I'm going to give you the best advice someone gave me when I got into coaching. Copying off one person is plagiarism. Copying off multiple people, now that is research. And I started thinking, and I was like, yeah, you know what? That's so true. Like, I'm not copying off anybody, but like John ran a few sessions and at Camp Shutout, and I took part in them. And they were a very technical base. And I'm like, hey, maybe I need to be a little bit more technical based, but when do I do that? And like that sparked an idea of like, okay, probably early session, then way more game realistic stuff like you did in your sessions, John. So like I just started taking ideas off of everybody. So I think that's the important part too, is just like you said, have multiple mentors. It doesn't have to be an absolute one person, but your mom, your dad, teammate, your coach, anybody who can give you valuable information, just as long as you're willing to listen, they're willing to talk.
I want to share one story real quickly because I think this is hilarious. Is that so? We were talking about Sharpie, and Omar spent, I don't know, like 17,000 hours with him in a row, and eventually he was like, you know what, I need to go. After you spend all that time with him, Omar and we ran a session in Arizona, and literally I was listening to the terminology and the vernacular, and I was like, man. It is like he is literally. I'm like, I know exactly where this is coming from. Like and I'm like, but that's the truth that and I don't say it's not copying. It's growing something and sometimes connecting and engaging in a way. And you're not trying to be Chris Sharp. You're just trying to implement things that you learned from him in your training sessions.
For sure.
GBaum, you got to bounce because I know you had the meeting and stuff like that.
Yeah, well, actually, we got the grandparents over to watch kids, so I can stay on, or if we're done, I mean, whatever.
No, we got we got some questions, dude. If you guys are for Buschy and GBaum, is that cool?
Yeah,
let's go.
All right.
Yeah, I'll see you guys later.
No, Omar, you can also add on to this. All right. So this question comes from John Hollinger, who we met him in Baltimore at convention. Shout out to John. He goes, "What's up, guys? What was the most challenging thing that happened during your career, and what did you do to overcome it?" Omar, you can add on to that as well too. So,
GBaum, go for
it. Most challenging thing. I can point to a few. I'd say probably coming back from hip surgery was definitely something that I was out for 10 months. I was on crutches for a very long time. I wasn't sure what I would come back to or how I'd be able to perform. So the grind mentally and physically of that, and then coming back and being able to play for, I don't know, 4 or 5 more years. I think 4 more years after that was something I'm definitely proud of. And I came back fitter and stronger than I was, which, to be honest, I set the bar very low on that standard. But I came back, and it was the first time I'd ever ran the 2 mile under 12 was after my hip surgery. So I was pretty happy about that.
You had to run the Cooper after.
I didn't have to. It was something that as I was getting back and I was able to put pressure on, start running. It's just something that basically the doctors were like, look, anything over basically 12 to 15 minutes of running, don't do. You're a swimmer, you're a biker, keep your running stint short. I was like, one day I was just feeling, I was like, I'm going for it. And I went up past that mile and I was like, I'm never looking back. So yeah, that's basically the only time.
Buschy, I have a feeling you're going to have a similar story here.
Good job.
Thanks, bro.
I would say my two ACLs, but I never ran the 2 and 12. Nah,
I never wanted to do that.
Oh, exactly. Yeah, no, I think obviously probably injuries are that was probably the biggest. And then for me, I think a lot also for me was each time I got traded or waived or whatever you want to call it, just in essence proving myself again. And every place I went, I was never guaranteed anything, which was the way I loved it. And there was always an established number one in there, so that was even better for me. I enjoyed that. But there's always times where you question it a little bit mentally. So,
Omar, what was most challenging for you?
I actually have a podcast about this one, but it was essentially, when you.
I know that's what I was trying to plug. So,
I came back from multiple mistakes. I had from 10 years old to 15 before I got to the Galaxy. I was the number one guy, no issues at all. And then I got to the Galaxy and they wanted me to be the number one guy, so I was. And then we got to the playoffs that year, and in the first game, I made a mistake. We go down 1-0, and there's a lot of pressure for the Galaxy, academy team, to go far. And all of our teammates have been talking about this for months and months and months, and finally we're there. And I make the mistake in the first game. We lose 2-1, and it was a horrible mistake. I just dropped the ball and they scored. And then teammates were saying negative things at the hotel and kind of calling me, putting me as an outcast. Second game, we're up 2-1, and we have to win that game to stay in. They shoot a ball. I take my eyes off it. I'm already looking for the side volley or something to go. Goes right through my hands, and now, third game, the coach is like, you're not playing. I come back to LA. We're going to drop you. We're not taking you to this Sun Cup tournament. You're not going to be involved in the plans. And, honestly, we're not sure if you're going to be involved next year. So I honestly was like the top going into the tournament. 5 days later, I was at the bottom of the pecking order. And I kind of had to work my way back for like 6 months, just trying to gain everyone's trust. My teammates finally warmed up to me after those times. But it just showed me that, like, you can't take being the number one or at the top for granted, because within a weekend it could be all gone. And I think that's the lesson that I took from it. And I think it kind of focused me with my eating habits and everything up until, my college days that I felt like really helped me in good stead.
I mean, I'd say for me, there was two in regards to, one is the labral tear, which basically ended my competitive career. And it's a very difficult, you guys had a little bit more success. You guys were able to make it to that first division. I was trying to get to that first division, training with Galaxy reserves and all that sort of stuff. And then when I found out that I had the labral tear, and they said, look, you're going to need that surgery. And unlike Andy, I didn't want to run the Cooper after 10 months of the surgery. So they said, if you go through PT, you're going to probably be able to be fine, in a little bit, but you're going to have to be off it for a while. And I knew, based on the level that I was playing at and the level of stature that I had, that I couldn't do that. I couldn't take that type of time off. And if I had the surgery, it was going to be a big risk. And I looked at kind of everything and I said, you know what? I think it might be time to focus on coaching. I think it might be time for me just to focus on, and that was really hard. I'm not going to lie. That was really, really hard, because I always knew that I was probably going to end up in coaching. I just didn't want it to be then yet, like I was doing coaching, but I was doing coaching because I had to do coaching. I kind of like GBaum was saying, the discovery contracts and all that stuff. I was doing coaching because I had to do coaching, but I wanted to be a player. And that was really, really hard to shift that mindset and have that maturity to make that decision. And then the second thing is that when I got let go by a club, and it was actually a very, very big club, and they didn't let me go because of my performance. They let me go because of finances. And they simply just did not have the money to pay for me anymore. And that's when I recognized that even at the youth coaching level, it's still a business. And you can't let what happens to you, traded, released, fired, all that, determine your worth as a coach or a player or anything like that, because a lot of times it has nothing to do with your actual ability. It has to do with circumstances outside your control. And I want a lot of young goalkeeper coaches and young goalkeepers out there to hear that. So, yeah. Look how profound and actually serious I got for a second. That was amazing. All right, guys, we got one more thing here. It's from Broward, and he wants to go. You guys were bringing up the point that every opportunity is a chance to learn. It might even be learning what not to do. What were opportunities you had in the past that you learned of things what not to do rather than what to do from an experience?
That's an interesting one. Oh, let's see here. There was, I mean, you can obviously, once you reach a certain level, what to look for technically. How to interact with fellow goalkeepers to create that proper environment. So I got a vibe from the person that I did not name, Buschy, which is not you. I got a vibe of how I knew I didn't want to, or how I didn't want that environment to look anyway. But also I just think, I spent a lot of years as a backup playing spot duty. And even from guys that, while I'm not playing, they're making mistakes. You can't just be like, yeah, look at me, put me in. I'm ready. Do you see that? You have got to take that in and experience that with them, because you're going to be there one day. I mean, there was plenty of times where I've given up goals that you just, like, man, I do not want to go in the video room the next day. And it's part of it. So I think having that empathy especially when you're not the guy, and realizing that you can learn something, whether it's in training or in a game, of not only what to do, but what not to do. Maybe the mistake was made. I took a first step and he didn't judge the ball. He reacted immediately, took a first step, and then the ball's over his head. Yeah, I wouldn't do that. Put me in, right? Or you can learn from it and help them through that experience.
Buschy, Omar?
For me, it was the same thing. It was about environment, but it was actually one of the goalkeeper coaches that I played for at the time. Fantastic as far as on the field and sessions, and that certainly absolutely loved the sessions. But the way he treated the goalkeepers, whether they were the pros or even the academy kids that would come train with us, it painted the picture for me that this was the environment I did not want if and when I ever became a goalkeeper coach. So yes, it painted the picture of what I didn't want. Like I said, sessions were great, but just the man management or whatever you want to call it was not good. And so it crystallized in my head what I did want and what I didn't want.
Omar?
I think we had the same goalkeeper coach, John, because that was the same thing at the academy. Like I love to joke around, and the guy did not want to see a smile on my face ever. So that was like for me a huge point where I was like, I don't like playing for this guy because I'm more nervous about upsetting him than I am actually performing. And then I got to college, and my goalkeeper coach there was completely the opposite. Like, loved to joke around, was just like me.
It was Andy.
And once we stepped
it was Andy. You had Andy.
Go.
Honestly, it would be an honor, and I think that's what it is, though. Like I think, like Andy said, there are coaches who are very serious, but there's a time and place to be serious. And I personally would rather I'd rather be not a friend, but like somebody that they can trust, but let my work do the talking. And I think again, John, like Andy, I watch more of John's career than yours, unfortunately. So I could say both, but John, I just felt like no matter what you did, and I'm a Galaxy fan, so like your time in San Jose, all those times where like we got to see you play against us, like you just let your work do the talking. And I think now I'm sure as a coach now, that's very similar to what you do, where it's just like you can say whatever you want, and I'm gonna act the way I need to act, but just watch how I do my things, watch how I carry myself, and I'm sure as a mentor as well for the younger goalkeepers, like you can say whatever you want about me, but when you watch me work, that's all you need to know.
Yeah. I think we need to share the screen with some GBaum highlights for Omar.
Yeah,
I watched a few.
Get up on YouTube. Come on, watch the Hebrew Hammer. Come on.
Oh man. Well, guys, we've been going for close to an hour and a half, and I appreciate you guys, taking all this time today, because I think this is an important topic, and I feel it's not discussed enough in the community, because and a lot of people are left to their own devices, and they, and try to figure out for themselves. Which honestly, something was said to me recently that had nothing to do with goalkeeping, but they said that when you try to self-counsel yourself, you're the only person that's giving you advice is yourself. And therefore, there's no way for you to bounce off ideas, and there's no way for you to, even if it's just talking to you, Buschy, or you, GBaum, or you, Omar, and figuring it out for yourself while you're talking to the person. Yeah. It's better than just being in your head and just overthinking. And Omar and I, we've talked about this, right? Overthinking things or second guessing ourselves because we're not bouncing off. So we need to get into this habit of being more open with each other and being willing to be vulnerable, Okay, guys. So before we go, Buschy, obviously, you've got something of performance that's very high that you got going on. Is there anything anybody here wants to plug before we get going here?
I'll start it.
Okay.
Yeah. Come check High Performance Goalkeeping, HPG, out. That's my glove line. Had it for 8-9 years now. So you can check us out on Instagram or Twitter at HPG_GK.
Awesome. And you got those, you got the tutorial videos going on too, right?
Yep. We've got, for what we're in right now, we've got little training videos you can do by yourself every morning. So I post that and gives you a little drill of the day. So.
All right, cool. All right, let's listen to two of your competitors right now. What do you guys want to plug?
No, I mean, during when this quarantine thing happened, I started thinking about content to push out, and I've done some what I think are pretty decent interviews with some guys in the league. I interviewed Chris Sharp as well, great guy. I mean, there's interviews with players. I've got one with Jimmy Nielsen coming up this week, and a few other guys. So www.GBaum, GBaum30.com. It's under the classroom session. that's it. I mean, if you want some content to go look at, I did one with Tony Miola. That was awesome. Yeah, I mean, it's just something to do if you're bored.
Omar, anything to do if you're bored?
No, I mean, it was crazy. I have a program that was like made for quarantine time before it was quarantine time. And it was like solo training. So I have a program that I made a few years ago, and it's 50 drills you can do on your own, like low balls, high ball drills. You have to get to a surface that you can actually bounce the ball though. So I think hopefully people can do that. But I have that program and it's still on sale on my website. So yeah, check that out.
Awesome. And you guys, obviously you can find him at ProGK Academy _ because you did not give out your information in case. But you're so world famous. Everyone knows you already. So it's like, you don't even have to. I mean, your silhouette was ProGK. So.
I don't know about world famous. I went to a goalkeeper camp last year and half the kids didn't know who the hell I was. So I don't know. I don't know what famous looks like, but it's not that.
That's actually a really funny story because we're walking in and I'm like, dude, Omar, every kid here is just going to know exactly who you are. And he's prepared for it. And we're at the welcome table and people are like, hey man, what are you guys selling over here? And he's
They just come from John's booth with their HPG gloves. And I'm
yeah, exactly. They come over with their HPG gloves. Oh my gosh, guys. Anyway, guys, if you have a guest suggestion or a topic suggestion, contact at Inside the 18. That's the number 18media.com. You can reach out to us also at Goalkeeper Podcast on all social media platforms. LA Goalkeeping Academy, since we're all plugging, LA Goalkeeping Academy has a free demo virtual clinic every Friday at 3 p.m. Pacific time. If you want more information, DM us about that. That is all the time on Inside the 18, and we are out. Later, guys.